Hello, weird ones, ghouls, and demons. So to this video, I wanted to talk about my pseudonym. I have like 50,000 different names, which is fun. It is super fun for me because I feel like, especially, so I have a more like Luciferian path, for lack of a better title. And in a lot of Luciferian lore, they have like what they call deific masks. So like Kali and Lilith are deific masks. They're the same energy or same spirit entity, but given a different name or title based off of a culture or language or moment of time. Gets complicated. I like that theory because to me it makes sense that we were all talking about the same thing, just giving it a different name. And I like to use the example of like Spanish. So my brother's name is Matt, but his Mexican wife and family call him Mateo. Same name, pronounced different language. You know, John is Juan, Pedro is Peter. Like I'm pretty sure. Jesus is Jesus. So anyway, I think it's fun that I have all of these different names. It feels very mythological. It adds to my lore. It's just fun. It's for fun. But like generally speaking, I've had a few dozen, exaggerated, a few different last names in my life. I have my father's last name, I have my mother's last name. A few of her marriages, I took their last name. I have my husband's last name, and I have my pseudonym. So sometimes, like, here's the funny thing, I don't have a book with me. Depending on what I've done, depends on what name I use. So government, legally, Sarah McKinney. So people know me as Sarah McKinney. That's my mother's maiden name. My father's last name is Nedzwekis, and I was Nedzwekis until I was 14, and then I legally changed it to my mom's. That's a lore background. And then, so I was McKinney forever, and then I got married, and I don't have like my legal, I don't have my husband's name legally as mine. I haven't changed it. I haven't gone through all the steps to change it. So then there's Sarah Odell. So my husband, it's Odell. So you see Sarah McKinney, Sarah Nedzwekis, or Sarah Odell. Quite often, depending on who you're talking to and what background information that you know, but it's all me. Sarah is the only thing that has stayed the same, which I think is kind of fun until it came to my pseudonym. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted a pseudonym. I have different opinions about name changing. I think that there is a significance. I don't care if people do it. But for me, specifically, I didn't want to believe that changing my name was going to solve all of my problems. And that comes from very specific experiences. There's a couple experiences, and you know, I don't want to dead name anybody. I don't want to get into that direction of things, because that's not what I'm talking about. Because if you want to change your name, I don't care. Like Chad Ochocinco, right? The football player, he legally changed his name to Ochocinco, like is his fucking jersey number or whatever. So like, people do it for all kinds of reasons. People have stage names. I understand that. But as I've grown up in this culture of like, you know, musicians and celebrities who have like a stage name, okay? And then I had a couple friends who changed their names for a variety of reasons. I don't want to spill any of that, but they changed their name for a variety of reasons. And like, sometimes when you know somebody by a certain name for a really long time, you're going to dead name them unconsciously, not intentionally, not maliciously. And I think that that's lost in our modern culture, which that's a whole other rant to go down. But if I accidentally it's like, well, I knew you as X name for 10 years, and you change your name, you haven't been this new name for more than a couple weeks, a couple months, I am actively reprogramming to call you by your new name. I genuinely want to call you by your new name. I love you, I accept you, embrace you for who you are. But you have to give me grace and patience and like, I'm being graceful and patient and respectful to you. I deserve that in return. I knew you by this name for a very long time. If it takes 60 to 90 days to change a habit, like, come on, like, people have to be a little bit more understanding within reason. So in the situation that I'm kind of referencing is, and a friend sent out a mass email about their name change and how fed up they are. And I understood where they were coming from. But one thing I wanted her to know is that, hey, like, I fell in love with you under this name. Like, you're my friend. I love you. The name doesn't change who you are. Okay? I think people get caught up in names and titles, and I also simultaneously believe that names are significant. Okay? So it's a double-edged sword. Two things are true at the same time. But what I felt in the email and the situation, I was like, hey, I think you're having a really hard time with maybe your dad or other family members actively rejecting you, like, to your face, telling you disrespectfully, I refuse to call you by your new name. That's a different situation. But you're sending an email to friends who are actively evolving themselves to make space for the new version of you. And I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. I was like, you are making a mess of this. Stick up for yourself to the people who you need to, and don't, like, alienate the people who are supporting you in this situation. And depending on who you are, depends on how you're gonna feel about that, right? But anyway, like, my whole point was that, like, oh, what, did that wake you up, Suna? Oh, her leg twitched and it scared her. Anyway, the little door stopper. So anyway, when you meet, so that's like, their name doesn't change who they are. It's like, so I was like, I think you need to have some acceptance about your name, and that there's nothing wrong with X name. There's nothing wrong with you, and your name isn't going to magically erase this part of your past or truth of your story or who you are. You're not literally dying and being reborn. It's symbolic, and I appreciate and respect the symbolism, but you're getting too literal about it. And at the time, I probably did not word this to her the best way. I tried, and I mean, it sat with me for years. This has been years, and I've really sat with this and tried not just justifying my stance, but processing the situation and knowing I came from a genuine place. And so because of this, when it came to my pseudonym, I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I really don't want to be a hypocrite. I think there's unavoidable hypocrisies as you evolve and grow and age and all of the above. So when I sat with it, I was just like, okay, I want a pseudonym. I'm more like for protection against certain things, but then it's like, people will dox you and they find your real name out anyway. Like, once you reach a certain celebrity status, it's kind of crazy how all personal information is just like public record now. You can look up any celebrity's birth chart, which is weird to me. How did you get their birth time? Or is this real? Like, so all of those things. So I was just like, because, the stars are the limit, right? And so I'm like, if and when I become this, like, well-known world-class author, well, how do I want them to know me? Well, it doesn't matter. The internet, they're gonna find out that I'm Sarah McKinney anyway. Like, I can't escape my past. I can't escape it. And so I was really thinking about these situations, and I'm doing psychedelic meditations, I was microdosing. And one thing that came through to me was, The first time it was just daughter of Saturn. That was the first time. So it was daughter of Saturn. And I was like, okay. And like I wrote that down. Like there's more to the trip. Anyone who has experience with psychedelics, not everything stays with you. You remember what you needed to. But that was something I wrote down. Like I take notes during my trips and meditations. Loose, it depends on the situation, right? So that came through. And then another, because like, so to backtrack, my intention at this time for a while was, who am I? It was a self-discovery journey, which is ultimately what a lot of the spiritual journeys are. It's like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? Like, that's a good start. You start remembering who you are and who you're supposed to be, especially when you're in a phase of life or wherever, like where I was. Now, I don't think everyone's specific. I think some people are born knowing who they are and nothing stops them, and good for them. I felt like I knew who I was, and then I forgot who I was through all of these conditionings and situations in life. I think it's actually pretty easy to forget who you are. And I don't mean like easy, it's like they have awesome systems and structures and things in place to help you forget who you are. It's not difficult to be swept away by it all. Especially when it's constantly repetitive and they get you at a young, vulnerable state. So this all started from like a really young age of just this battle of trying to fight for the right to be who I am, right? And so I'm doing all this like deep inner work, and I'm trying to figure out who the fuck it is that I am. So that's the intention for all of this. It's taking the psychedelic, it's meditating, and it's discovering what voice is mine, what thoughts are mine, what is me, who am I? And so asking the medicine, the mushrooms, the psychedelics, the answer, like, hey, who am I? Like, that's like, this is what I'm seeking. A few times they have yelled at me. Like one of my biggest trips, they screamed at me, remember who you are. I was like, I'm Sarah. And they're like, you're not Sarah. And it was just like, scary voice. And I was like, if I'm not Sarah, then who am I? And it's like, well, you can take that to mean I'm not being who Sarah is and is supposed to be, or you could take it that I'm not Sarah, I'm living as Sarah in this lifetime, but I am not Sarah. I am this soul experiencing life as Sarah in this moment. You can take it so many different ways, and I think all different directions are healthy to balance within yourself. You know, two things are true at the same time. So I'm not being who Sarah is supposed to be. I am Sarah, but I'm also not Sarah. So then one of the trips is daughter of Saturn. Well, I am Saturn ruled. I'm Aquarius and I have a lot of Capricorn. I got both. I got lots of Saturn energy, okay? So daughter made sense. And then another one was daughter of Hades and Persephone. And I was like, who's the daughter of Hades and Persephone? Like, I thought you're talking in your head, right? You're having this psychedelic experience. So it sounds crazy. And so I'm talking out loud. I'm like, well, who's the daughter of Hades and Persephone? And it's like, you are. And I was like, that is insane. Like, I'm arguing with the mushrooms in my psyche about this. And it's like, and then they get mad at you, by the way, if you question things. And it's like, okay, I don't want to be insane. I don't want to be delusional. I need a grounded perspective. And so I was like, okay, well, I come down from the trip, and these are microdoses. Like, at this point, the most I took was 0.5 gram, which, depending on who you are, is a microdose. And so I start researching the daughter of Hades and Persephone. I didn't even know they had a daughter. I don't know how well known she is, but in all my Greek studies, it just kind of stopped at the main gods. Like, their children, outside of Zeus's children, it didn't keep going for me in my studies, and that's because school took me a different direction. I got distracted on a new subject. You know, insert excuse anywhere. There's reasons for it. And so I was just kind of confused by them. And so I researched it, and like I looked it up online, and I started diving into it and finding all like what little information you can find about Melinoe, and that's how I believe it's pronounced. I've heard a few different pronunciations. I've looked it up and heard it a few times. But that's also me reading it how I would assume it's said. Could be wrong, willing for it to be wrong, willing to change it if I need to. So anyway, Melinoe. And the more I learned about her lore, some of the imagery of her, I understood why they called her to me. Whether I am her, literally in a reincarnation, I don't like to go down those crazy rabbit holes of things. I think that's where it's really easy to become ungrounded and get lost. But it's fun to think about, and it's imaginatively inspiring to act as if you are. So I think like that's where archetypes, like in these myths and stories, it is invoking an archetype that you naturally have, and that's why maybe the gods are more like a title. Like my husband is definitely a Lucifer, but he's also an Asmodeus essence. Like you can kind of see concoction of all of these things. So who knows how it all scientifically comes together. But I think it's significant to groundedly hold space in a imaginative plane. Okay, so I am the daughter of Hades and Persephone. I am Melinoe. Okay, awesome. What does that mean? Melinoe means dark-minded in Greek. That is the bit. I'm like, oh, I've always been told I'm dark-minded. I've kind of prided myself on that. That's something that's fun for me. Something I've heard. So the title, again, Melinoe means dark-minded. I'm wearing a title of being dark-minded. That is my name. Dark-minded person. So I love that. And so I was like, okay, well that's like a lot of like, especially my poetry. Edgar Allan, I was like, okay, this fits. And so then I was like, well, there needs to be more. And then I had joked with my husband one day. I was like, maybe we should just change our last name to Mourningstar. Like no Odell, no McKinney, no any of this. We choose our last name. And it would just, we're kind of silly, stereotypical, satanic, metal, occult people. Like we fit into a lot of stereotypes, and for us it's fun. It's fun for a variety of reasons. We have our own like authentic uniqueness, and then we also have some stereotypes that we lean into mainly for shock value, for fun, like whatever, for all the reasons. And so I joked with them, I'm like, maybe we should just be morning stars. How funny wouldn't that be? And just being kind of silly and ridiculous. And in that moment I was like mourning, like as in grief. A lot of my poetry is the grief that I hold. Instead of me holding the grief within my body, which I had like through all the phases of not writing, all of that grief was stored in my body instead of being released. So I feel things too deeply on every spectrum, highest of highs, lowest of lows, not bipolar. I don't feel personally, and I haven't been diagnosed. People could argue. I don't think that I have any mental illness in that way. I believe that I am simply a sensitive person, and I think I feel into things. You can go into all the spiritual perspectives, you can go into all the medical perspectives. I kind of don't care. I kind of like just shed all of that, and I'm just Sarah, okay? I'm a sensitive person. I feel deeply into my emotions and the emotions of others, whether that's an astrological reason, some other spiritual philosophy, a medical condition. It's not harmful. I'm not harming myself or others. And so therefore I don't think there needs to be a treatment. I don't need to heal that. I need to embrace that as a talent, as a skill, as a gift, and figure out how to channel it in a healthy way. And poetry is the best way to do that, especially for my more dark-minded thoughts, that 8th house, to tie astrology into it. And so it's like mourning, grief. Oh, I'll do a play of words on Mourningstar, because then there's also, I attach in more astrology symbolism. I'm a Libra North Node. There's my Pisces Venus. Within the Saturn, there's all of these things. Like I honestly don't know which rabbit hole to go down, but it like kind of all hit me at once. I'm envisioning all of these different reasons and perspectives, and the dots are connecting in me choosing my name, and it's all coming together through all of these small little ooh, piece of candy moments. That's what it reminded me of. It's like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Oh my gosh, here it is. Like the house, you know? And so Mourningstar. So, because my husband and I, our wedding anniversary is January 8th. It was January 8th, 2022, and it was on the Venus star point. Venus had just finished a complete cycle around Earth, and so its like pattern was the flower, and so then Earth and Venus were like in alignment with each other, and it was this whole thing. So that's like our wedding anniversary, all intuitively done. I found that out in reflection, because things happen and I'm just like lost in the moment, and then I'm like, wait, hold the phone. I look something up, or I realize I'm like, hey, this is the moon, this is the this is the that, blah 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 blah. I was like, wow, everything is spiritually, intuitively aligned. So it's like what is that theory? There's a theory, there's a better term for it, but like where your life is predictable and like laid out for you. It's not coming to me in this moment in time. Like your life is mapped out for you, whatever that fucking is. I think that is true to a small, like I think that there is like a structure, a roadmap, a path that you're meant, like here's the thing, when you go into a video game, metaphorically, please understand this is a metaphor, but you go into a video game, you can move around, but there's still guidelines. You know what I mean? There's still like, hey, you can go on all the side quests, you can take all the time in the world to have fun and do whatever you want, but there's still objectives, right? So these were my objectives coming to fruition, and that like awareness, that remembering of like, oh no, like, you know, it was confirmation for me that I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There are times where I question, I'm like, well, actually that was during a Venus retrograde, but what does that do? There's retrogrades aren't what I think what people fearmonger to believe, and that's a whole other thing. So all of this Venus and Saturn energy is coming together. I'm a Pisces Venus, my husband's a Capricorn Venus, and like I'm blossoming from my upbringing into this. So it's I know it's maiden, mother, crone, but like I don't want to, not just those symbolisms, but in a way rite of passage into like womanhood. It's also like my Saturn return. I'm doing all of this during my Saturn return, so there's also that understanding of everything, and so it felt significant to me, and so I became Melinoe Mourningstar, and it was fun. I've had a few different like fun little modeling names. Like I was Death Metal Barbie for a while. I was something else. There's a few others. Death Metal Barbie that one stuck for a long time, and it was fun for me. I like those different things that kind of not just it expresses that side of me, and that's why, like, you know, for my short stories, like the more children's-y fairy tale books, it's Sarah Odell. There's a more like whimsy side to it. It's the overly in love and bubbly, giddy married woman that I am. That really comes through. A lot of that love and beauty shines, and so I take on the title of Sarah Odell because my husband really reignited that within me. I've always been that way in my own natural state, but he's able to maintain it in a really cool way, if that makes sense. And so I guess that's where that name comes in. Sarah McKinney is literally just for like legal things because I haven't changed my name, and that will change. I guess I don't want to forget where I came from. I have a complicated family past and history, but I'm not ashamed of my family or my last name in that way, and so I don't care if it disappears forever or doesn't disappear forever. It's a part of me, and so it can be there for however long it's there, because it'll ultimately never disappear, to an extent, you know, even through marriage or any of these other metamorphoses, right? So then, like, Melinoe is for that more like dark-minded grief side of things. But then I also found, you know, for like my epic poem, like epic mythological poem that's like a love story that I have like Act 1 released of, and I have plans on like 6 acts. Well, I have Melinoe on there. So my Melinoe is not just for the poetry, it's for this other style of writing. And it's like, well, do I want Melinoe to be my pseudonym for everything? And it kind of is. It's become my new modeling name. It's kind of become my new name. And I have toyed in my, like, thought about, like, the thoughts. I've messed around with the thoughts about, well, do I change it legally? Do I get rid of Sarah? And do I become Melinoe? And it's like, well, yeah, that feels more authentic to me in significant ways. But then, oh, internet don't drive me. But for like a good example, it's just like Marilyn Manson. From my understanding, he has not changed his real name. He's still Brian. Or Lana Del Rey. She's still Lizzie, I think. I actually don't know. I genuinely do not know. I'm assuming this because people still call them by those non-artistic pseudonyms. You know? People still call them by their birth names. So I don't fucking know. So I kind of toyed about, am I just known as like, because it's going to get to a point where I'm just Melinoe. That's on my business card. Like, I kind of started to get rid of Sarah O'Dell, or just Sarah in general. Which, here's the thing, Sarah means princess. I love my name Sarah. It means princess. I mean, like, art and gift from God. Like, there's a lot of spiritual significance, but I think them together is kind of like the yin yang, and then it ties into more Melinoe symbolism because she's like hell, like the goddess hell. She's split down the middle, black and white, life and death. Like, there's a lot of yin yang symbolism, which to me aligns with my Libra North Node in certain perspectives. It balances out the Capricorn and Aquarius yin yang I have 3 and 3 for 6 total Saturn placements in my. There's a lot of dualism, masculine and feminine energies. I'm almost perfectly split. I have 30-30, 20-20 on like the elements between like earth, water, fire, air, and those things. So balance, I think balance is significant for everybody, but I have found balance to be more, I guess, tedious. Like, it's the super subtle. It's like those fine little details of balance and integration in that way, if that makes any sense. So I like having both. I don't know where I'll go. I don't care what people call me, for the most part. Even insulting names, like, you call me a cunt, I probably was being a cunt sometime. If you have a nickname for me, even if I don't like it, like, people have called me Tata. That's another name that I have. That's what my nieces call me. That's what my cousins started calling me. Oh, I've been called Tata since I was little. My cousin couldn't say Sarah, and so she called me Tata. And then my mom thought it would be fun for my nieces to call me Tata as like an aunt name, and I kind of didn't want it to be. It's a whole other thing, but it is what it is. So I'm Tata, and so I embrace it because it has positive meaning to the people who call me it. Then I'm not gonna have issues. But if it becomes negative, you can guarantee I'm gonna squash it pretty brutally, actually. So anyway, that's the pseudonym. That's like the story behind why I call myself that. These are all of the different directions, especially on a spiritual plane, that I think people might go through, especially if they're kind of on a path of self-discovery and or psychedelic influence. There's a way to ground in these principles. I know a lot of people, especially on TikTok, they've got so many Sarahs have gotten lost in thinking that they're Asmodeus's Sarah based off of his myth. Here's the thing, I had that same experience where it was like, yeah, no, you're Sarah. It's like, okay, no, in this moment, I'm relating to Sarah when I have this already romantic understanding and fun belief or whatever that my husband is like an Asmodeus character. So of course I would be Sarah, because Chad has followed me in every single lifetime. And like I have different I filled in the gaps in like Asmodeus's myth. It's not just like he didn't just follow Sarah through the marriages. Like I think it was 7 marriages. He killed like 7 spouses. It was the 8th spouse that Raphael, like I think it was Raphael, battled. Like there's all of that, right? So to me, I'm like, oh, I don't think it was just then. I think it's like a Dracula thing. Oceans of time to find her. And I really fell into the dark romantic side of it all. It was just fun for me. And so how do I relate to this story, and why am I like lost in the romance of it? Well, because I want deep devotion like that, and he's the fucking demon of lust and wrath, for Christ's sake. So you can see where that trickster energy would come in, and that's where you get ungrounded. That's like a spiritual demonic trap. You have to transmute that. You have to sit with it. I don't think it's wrong to sit with it, and I think people have the experiences they have for their reason. I think there is a purpose to levels of spiritual psychosis. I think you hit like a peak, and then you have to integrate it. And if you're talking in that peak moment, I don't think people translate you properly. But then I also think that people don't ground and integrate themselves. They stay in that state of being. And that's where things get complicated. So it's all about discernment. And like, yes, well, it's really fun to think that I am this reincarnated, super special. I'm Melinoe. I'm the daughter of Hades and Persephone. Asmodeus has been hunting me my whole life. And like, those are fun stories to tell yourself. That's like the ego. That's the narcissism. It makes you feel really good. But it's like, well, how can I take these archetypes and I relate to them and then integrate it and ground it in a way that is a part of this human experience that I'm having? Because again, not everyone is Sarah. Not everyone is Asmodeus' Sarah. I'm not Asmodeus' Sarah. But if I'm relating to that, what does it mean? Well, it means that I want a husband or a spouse that pursues me. Or maybe it's like on the other side of things where you're trying to break the repetitive cycle of possession, because it wasn't really love. It was like, again, there's lessons in the myths, people, and depending on what lesson you're gonna take depends on how open and honest you are about yourself and your needs, your desires, and blah 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 blah. And if you're not open and honest about yourself, if you don't understand what these grounded, like these spiritual philosophical principles are supposed to be, you're gonna get lost in the sauce very easily. So that's just like, that's like how I've grounded out my pseudonym through all of this, and I guess initiated into higher states of being, into a more authentic sense of self. And like, here's the thing, your experience is valid. You experience what you experience for a reason, and then what you do with that, that's what's up to you. I don't think people are lying when they tell me they had an experience, for the most part. Some people do lie about it, but for the most part, I think it's like, yeah, no, you genuinely had an experience. I understand. Like, I have a conversation. Someone could screenshot a couple of conversations from me. I'm like, yeah, well, this is where Melinoe came from. All right, like, she's not really like a well-known goddess or talked about. She might be gaining popularity. But when I very first started talking about her, on my social medias and stuff, like, no one really knew who she was. They were asking me more questions about her. Like, 2 people knew who she was, and they're like, what do you know about her? So I told them, well, this is my experience, and I was like, and I don't think that I am her, but like, I am her. I am a version of her, just like, I like to use dogs. Dogs are, well, really anything's a good example, but it's just an easy example. So like my German Shepherds that I'm staring at right now, they're just so cute and snuggly and sleepy. They are German Shepherds. That is a title, but there is Suna and there is Valus, but that does not take away German Shepherd from them. So I am a Melinoe, but I'm still Sarah McKinney Odell, blah blah blah, Same kind of, I think it's like that categorization of biology and the ecosystem and what was it, zoology, the zoology of it all. So I think that goes into spiritual perspective. So I think that there is a Melinoe, and then I think there's Melinoes underneath that. I think that's kind of how like energy works. And I've had a few other occultists and spiritualists, they feel the same way with like Lucifer, Hades, I've heard. I'm trying to think of Jesus. People do that with Jesus a lot, but in incredibly unhealthy ways. Or Satan, if you want that title of adversary. Again, from my understanding in a lot of these teachings, is it's realizing that names are titles, and that you could be talking about any individual at any moment in time. And then that's also reincarnation and past life, and then you kind of get into this complex web of understanding things, and that's where, hey, maybe two things are true at the same time. Maybe there's Melinoe, and it's like a tree, okay? So Melinoe is the seed, and I'm one of the roots of that, or maybe I'm a branch. But the whole tree, the whole seed is still Melinoe, and I'm just one aspect of it. And that's life. And you can go through those metaphors and everything. Like it's not special to me, it's not special to Melinoe, it's not special to anything. It's special and unspecial all at the same time. So yeah. So anyway, that's my pseudonym. That's the story behind that and why I've chosen it. I hope you people, all of y'all, like it. And if you don't, oh well. If you think I'm insane, get in line. But yeah, so that's the end of that. And thanks for listening.